kitchen. So many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.
Happy October 1st, and welcome to the October show of So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. My name is Dilla Barman. We've been doing these monthly shows since early in the pandemic. We are a group of a few dozen Physicians Committee Food for Life instructors. Food for Life is a nutrition education program. We have wonderful classes all over the country and in many other countries besides the United States, where we have evidence-based classes showing you how to eat in a healthy way. And we have classes specifically for certain situations like diabetes and cancer and high blood pressure to help you, if you do have those conditions, eat in a way to help manage or maybe even reverse those conditions. So we go kitchen to kitchen with different topics each month. This month we are talking about salad dressings. And I'm excited. We have so many cool dressings we're demonstrating. I think there are 8 of us today. I'm the first one. I'm in Durham, North Carolina. And the dressings we're going to be making are a creamy tofu jalapeno lime, no honey mustard, a number of vinaigrettes, and more. To me, salad is a great way to prepare a healthy dish. For some, it could be a complete meal. Before showtime, I prepared this salad right here. And it has a couple different kinds of tomatoes. It has carrots, it has greens, arugula, it has some baked tofu, cucumber, I think a couple kinds of bell pepper, carrots. So this probably would serve as a complete meal. And why not? There's so many wonderful ingredients. I know this isn't a salad show, but I have to talk a little bit about these wonderful tomatoes. I like sometimes they're called ugly tomatoes. This is a green zebra, and sometimes you can get them really small. They're so tasty. You know, there's all sorts of tomatoes. Sun Gold is one of my favorite kinds of tomato. It's small and it's like candy. I can almost not resist putting one in my mouth right now. And there's so many salad ingredients. But I'll stop there because it's not a salad show. The thing that I find surprising, my parents are immigrants from India, and we just, growing up, didn't have salad dressings. What my mom would do is she'd make a salad, and then we would have some lime or lemon, and we'd squeeze a little bit, and we'd put some black pepper and salt. Put just a bit of salt in the salad. And I really like that because the citrus, the lemon, the lime, would really bring out the flavors and really make it taste super fresh. So as I got older, I was exposed to French and Italian and other kinds of dressings. And even now, I don't really like them. They're too heavy for me. If we go to a restaurant and there's a dressing, I will ask for it on the side, and I'll put just a little bit on. So today we're going to be sharing, as we always do, healthy recipes, and our dressings will be healthy, whole food, plant-based, and tasty. So one of my suggested dressings is just that, my mom's dressing. Just get a lime or lemon, cut it, and you can even just leave it uncut in the salad for the diner to squeeze on their own, and then a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper. And that's so easy. I'm not going to demonstrate it. It's so easy. But I am going to be making a citrus miso ginger dressing. This actually isn't my idea. I learned this from the Food for Life Kickstarter Health class. It's called, there's a dressing called orange miso dressing, and itself was adapted from a recipe from Celine Steen. She has a book called 500 Vegan Recipes. So I use this as a point of departure, and I've come up with my own version of it. I like this because it has a number of really important ingredients. Ginger, and here you can see some ginger root. You can just break off, if you're in the store and you don't need this much, just rip it. It comes right up, just kind of cut it like that. It comes right apart. And take as much as you'd like. And so what I did is I simply removed the skin from the ginger root. Ginger has strong anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. It's wonderful for digestion. One of the first books I read by Neil Barnard, who started Physicians Committee, talked a lot about ginger. And ever since I read the book, I said to myself, I need to integrate more ginger in my cooking. So ginger is a great food. If you ever go on a journey and you are liable to get nauseous, maybe in the car, try some ginger. That can help. Of course, it has garlic, which has many great antioxidant and other properties, so that's good. I love citrus. This has citrus. This has an ingredient you may not be familiar with called miso. Miso comes originally from Japan, and it's a thick paste, fermented, and it usually traditionally is made with soy. My wife, sometimes soy bothers her, so she prefers tempeh she enjoys, but she prefers not having a soy miso. So you can get other misos. This one is made from chickpea, and so that's what I'm going to be using. And this is what it looks like. I've taken some out. Okay, so chickpea miso. Because it's fermented, it's great for gut microbiota and provides good probiotics. It's also a reasonable source of manganese and vitamin K. Each of those gives you about 1/10 of the daily recommended intake. And it also has a reasonable source of copper and zinc, but it's high in sodium. I dare not read the label. Let's see, sodium 340 milligrams for 2 teaspoons. So not that terrible, pretty high. So it is high in sodium and it's salty, okay? So there's that. And then another ingredient that may be new to you is black sesame seed, which is right here. I'll open the top so you can hopefully see this. So the black sesame seed is a great source of calcium. I don't know if that shows up on camera, but I'll pour it in a minute. So those are some new ingredients that you may not be familiar with. So it's really easy to make. I'm going to grab my blender container, and I'm going to start with putting 1 tablespoon of miso into the blender. Now, we use heavy-duty blenders. This is a Vitamix. You don't need a Vitamix for what I'm going to do. Any blender will do. Okay, so there goes the miso. And tell you what, we were talking about black sesame seeds, and the recipe calls, and all the recipes are available. There's a link which we'll put up on the screen. You can download all of the recipes we're doing today. There's also an appendix by my good friend Brenda Davis, RD, about salad dressings. So it's all available to you. So I need, my recipe calls for, the recipe that I've put together, calls for 1 teaspoon of black sesame seed. And I'm a lazy cook. I'm not going to get out my teaspoon and tablespoon measures because if you're in the ballpark, it's good. And if, when you're done, taste it. And if you want to make some changes, you can. I'm going to be lazy, so I have less utensils to clean. I'm going to call this a tablespoon. 3 teaspoons makes 1 tablespoon. So I'm going to put roughly 1/3 of the black sesame seed in. And let me pour it into the container just so I can spread it out and you can see the black sesame seed. Okay? So there's the black sesame seed. Let's go ahead and put that in there. Okay? So black sesame seed may be difficult to get. You can skip it. You don't have to use black sesame seed. If you want, you can put some regular white sesame seed, or you can totally skip that if you'd like. And then I'm going to put in an orange, and good oranges are Valencia and Temple and maybe Navel. I love tangerines, but I'm not sure I'd use a tangerine in this recipe. It's just a little too tart. So what I did is I took an orange and I cut the top and bottom off, and then I peeled it. On one side I peeled it a little bit more carefully, but the downside of peeling more carefully is you lose more volume. This side I didn't peel as carefully, just to show you. The problem with not peeling it carefully is the white portion, the pith, is bitter, okay, and that'll add a bitter flavor. If it's convenient, you can tease out the seeds, but did I mention I'm lazy? So grinding up the seeds isn't going to cause a problem except it adds some bitterness. So if you can get rid of the seeds, that's better. So here's my 1 orange, and I just quartered it just to make it a little bit easier to blend. I didn't have to do that. Also, you want 1/2 of a medium lime. Okay, so here's a lime. You actually can use, especially if it's organic, everything I'm using is organic, you can actually use the peel. It adds a nice flavor. But what I've done is on one side, I was a little bit aggressive with removing the white pith, and the other side a little less. So there's my 1/2 lime. You can also use a lemon. Lemons are bigger than limes, so try 1/3 of a lemon. If you can get Meyer lemons, they're wonderful. They're sweet. I love Meyer lemons. And then we want a clove of garlic and about a teaspoon of ginger. So here's my ginger. I removed the skin. I'm not bothering chopping it because the blender will homogenize it. Now my garlic was a little bit small, so I went ahead and put 2 other very small pieces of garlic in. Okay. And then we need the black sesame seed, which I've added. We need freshly ground black pepper. It calls for salt to taste. I'm leaving that in the recipe, but I'm not going to add any salt because the miso has enough salt to my taste. But if you want a little bit more salt, feel free if you would like. Okay, so here's some black pepper. And I recommend about a half teaspoon, and I'm just estimating. It looks like we're getting there. So freshly ground black pepper is great. A little bit of garlic powder would be nice, even though there's fresh garlic. The garlic powder adds another exponent of garlic. So again, I'm not carefully measuring. I'm estimating. Okay. I grew up that way. My mom never used recipes. She would just wing it. That's kind of how I cook too. But rest assured, when I put these recipes together, I make them and I do measure at home because I know many of you want pretty close measurements. So just on camera, I'm not bothering to take the time, but many of you will want to take the time and start with my measurements. And then optionally, we need 2 teaspoons of a seasoned rice vinegar. Don't use a balsamic, but use a seasoned rice vinegar like this. It should be relatively easy to find. And I don't like vinegar. I think the original recipe that I modified had, I think, a 1/4 cup of vinegar or something, and it's just not to my taste. So I'm saying I recommend 2 teaspoons. So this is 3 teaspoons. I'm going to put about 2/3 of this spoon of vinegar. Okay. Okay, it's totally optional. And that's it. So easy peasy. So now what I'm going to do, oh, and I wanted to mention that in addition to garlic, you can move towards an onion by using a shallot. I love shallots, and the shallot would be really nice in this salad, especially with this dressing, but shallot is another option. I find for some reason a lot of people don't use shallots, and that's another way to elevate your cooking. If you're used to using onions, shallot is kind of a cross between onion and garlic. Okay, so there's my dressing. This is going to make about 2/3 of a cup. I asked my family, do you think this is enough for about 3 or 4 servings? And they said about 4 servings. But make it your own. If you want a lot of dressing, then you can, blend more proportionally. So here goes. Here's a trick with blending. When I'm done blending, sometimes some of the solids have buoyed up. So I'll decrease the speed of the blend and then I'll suddenly increase it. And that's it. I didn't put any salt in at all. And then I am going to sample it. Be careful with blenders if you put metal in, you want to avoid touching the metal blades. So let's go ahead and try the dressing. Oh, it's outstanding. It's quite good. Let me just pour some into a bowl. So this is about half of what it made, and this is more than enough for 1 serving. This is my citrus miso ginger dressing. I'm going to move this out of the way. And you can serve it on the side. You can put it on top of the salad and let your diner yourself enjoy. That's all there is to it. It's easy peasy. I think you're going to find all of the recipes today fairly easy. And if you look at this, this is not, it's practically no added fat. Sesame seed has a tiny bit of fat. I think that's about it. There's really no added fat. So this is a really healthy, full of flavor. Sometimes I like salads just plain, but adding a dressing really adds another tangent, another exponent to your salad. And really, properly chosen will help the flavors all blend together. And one more plug for just a simple citrus dressing. That also is great. It really gives you freshness. Add some fresh herbs as well. If you want to add herbs to this, try a little bit of oregano. That would go well. And that's it. So with that, I'm excited to introduce my colleague in Austin, Texas, Karen Osborne, who's making a no honey mustard dressing. Take it away, Karen, and thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks, Dillip. Looks great. Hello and welcome to my kitchen here in Austin, Texas. I'm Karen Osborne, myfoodfitnessandfun.com, and today I'm going to have a short and sweet no honey mustard dressing for you. You can see it's just got a few ingredients. We have a little apple cider vinegar. Start with some water, filtered water. I'm going to use Dijon mustard, but you could use any kind of mustard that you like. The authentic Dijon mustard would have wine in it, but this is not authentic, but it's organic. It has the thing about Dijon mustard is it's made with the darker mustard seeds, and those darker mustard seeds have more of a bite, more of a kick, whereas the lighter mustard seeds are more mild. And then we have a few spices, onion powder, garlic granules, you could use garlic powder, and a little bit of salt. I'm gonna use a little bit of lemon juice, add some vitamin C, and it just gives it more of a kick or zip. And then we have our sweetener. Instead of honey, we're going to use dates. So I'm going to just pit my last one. I pitted the other 3 already. You want to just check and make sure they are removed, because you wouldn't want that in your dressing. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start with the water. And the apple cider vinegar. So if you put the liquids in your blender first, then it helps pull all the other ingredients down into the blade. All right, so then we're going to add the mustard. And the mustard and the dates actually thicken this up, so you don't need any oil. A lot of recipes that you'll find for a honey mustard dressing actually use oil or mayonnaise in their base. All right, so then we're also going to use the dates. They help thicken it up, and instead of just being a sugar, they have vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, everything that helps your body use the sugar that's in the dates. Helps the fiber, helps it absorb more slowly. And then we're going to put in our spices and just a little bit of lemon juice. And then we're going to blend it up. All right. Move it over here. Okay. I'm going to put on the lid and blend it until it's smooth. Alright, so our honey mustard or no honey mustard salad dressing is done. And what I would tell you, this is a high-speed blender, so I did not soak the dates. But if you have just a regular blender, that works too. You might just want to soak the dates for a little while, like maybe a couple hours before you blend, before you make your dressing. And here we have a yummy, thick honey mustard dressing that you can use on your salad. And it's yummy. Or, yeah, you can use as much as you want. It's fat free. It's also good on tofu. Marinate the tofu and bake it. It's good roasted. You can put it on pack. It's good as a sauce on vegetables. If you want it thicker, use a little bit less water. If you want it thinner, use more water. It's the beauty of making your own food. You make it how you like it. So I hope you try it and enjoy it. Let us know how you like it. And now I'm going to toss you over to Mark Cirkvenik, who's going to show you a balsamic vinaigrette. Take it away, Mark.
Hi everybody, Mark Cirkvenik here. I'm back in the blue apron, and I'm here to cook for you today on So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. It's been several months since I've been on the show. I've been traveling, had some tours to Charleston and Asheville, and we've got a bunch of them planned for next year. Check me out. I'll be cooking on all those tours. Those tours are all oil-free tours, and would love to have you on those. So please check the tours out at let'seatgreat.com or at Veg Johnson Journeys. In fact, we've got a special promotion going on right now. If you book between now and October 4th, you're going to get a chance to win the tour that you book. All you have to do is put a deposit of $500 down, and then if you are the lucky one, you'll get that tour for free. So check out Veg Johnson Journeys or Let's Eat Great Food for more details. So with that, I'm going to make a dressing today called balsamic vinegar, but this is oil-free. Remember, oil has 9 calories per gram, so we're going to pull that calorie count right out of this recipe and make an oil-free balsamic vinegar. And you're going to see how super easy this is. So all I'm going to do is take some balsamic vinegar here. I'm going to take about 2 teaspoons, put that right in that little bowl there. Take some Dijon mustard, about a teaspoon as well. And then I'm going to take some nutritional yeast. We're going to take a teaspoon of nutritional yeast. Put that in there, and about a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. And I'm also going to get a little bit of salt here. I'm going to take just a little pinch of salt. You could put a little pepper, but I think it's spicy enough. We're going to mix that up real good. And you're going to see the way this emulsifies, and without even any oil. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? And this is just absolutely wonderful for our salad. And look how simple that is. Who says you need bottled dressing? So I'm just going to put a little bit of dressing on that. You could double, triple, quadruple this. Really easy. And then keep some in your refrigerator, and it'll stay for several days. So I'm going to give this a little taste. That was fantastic. Fish is light. It's just, excuse me, just a little acidic enough and very refreshing. So check that recipe out, and so happy to be back on the show. And I'm going to keep eating my salad here.
Good afternoon. Mark, that balsamic vinegar looks amazing. Balsamic vinaigrette has always been one of my favorite. I have been enjoying it for probably more than 29 years already. So I can't wait to try what you just made. Hello, my name is Angie Hughes. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina. I am also a Food for Life instructor, and I am so excited to be part of this group. And I just really want to thank you for being with us. And today, we all know it's so many dressings. So today I'm going to be making a creamy jalapeno lime tofu dressing. And a tofu has protein and it has calcium. It also has potassium and vitamin C. And then the jalapenos, you've got vitamin A and vitamin C, and then you've also got some potassium in there and capsaicin, which is really good for you as well. And we've got fiber in the white onions, and that helps feed the good bacteria in your gut. So let's get started. I am going to be using my smoothie cup in my Ninja blender. So I have 8 ounces of firm tofu, and I did not, I drained the water out, but I didn't put anything heavy on it to drain the excess water out of this. In here, we're going to add roasted onions, and that just gives it this wonderful smoky flavor. We're also going to add onion powder, yes, a little bit of onion powder, and we're going to add some garlic powder to this. I've got some salt and I've got some dried cilantro. If you don't have dried cilantro, you can use fresh cilantro, but you want to double the amount that you're using and mince it, and more of the flavors in the stalk of the fresh cilantro than in the leaves. So just make sure you wash it really well. Again, the salt is optional. And here are the jalapenos. So since these are kind of small, I've got 2. If you don't like your food really spicy, you can take the seeds and the veins out. If you're okay with a little bit of heat, just take out the seeds. And if you really like a lot of heat, just leave it all in there. Now for this application, I'm going to remove the stems. So I roasted these in my air fryer at 350 for about 5 minutes. And then I put them in a Ziploc bag. I use it all the time. I wash it and reuse it just for my peppers. And all you're going to do is just remove the skin off of that. You might want to wear gloves because you don't want to accidentally touch your eye or your mouth and then have that burning sensation. So since these are kind of small, I'm just going to remove the seeds. I'm not going to worry about the veins. And we're just throwing all that in there. And if you have an allergy to tofu, feel free to use white beans in this. Lupini beans are great. Just take out the outer skin. It takes a little bit of time, but they sell lupini beans in the international aisle, or I also find them in the Indian markets. So we're going to put that in there, and then what we're going to do is for our liquid, I'm using aquafaba. So that's what I have here. So the recipe calls for ½ a cup, but if it's too thick for you, then just thin it out with a little bit more. Now what do you do with your leftover chickpeas? Because you don't want a freezer full of them. What I did earlier was I took a ¼ cup of my dip and I mixed it with my chickpeas, and I made a I made a hummus with it. It's really, really good. You should give it a try. All right, and we're going to use the juice of 1 whole lime. So I got this little handy dandy little thing. So it works for lemons and it works for limes. You just have to make sure not to get that in your eye, which I have done. So we're just going to squeeze it in there. If you have lime juice in a little bottle, then you're going to use about 2 tablespoons of lime juice. And if your limes are a little bit too hard and you can get them to soften up, zap them in the microwave for about 10-15 seconds, and then it'll soften them right up. All right, so we're just squeezing that right in there. Oh, the smell of lime is amazing. So we're just putting everything into that little cup. If you don't have one of these, you can use just your regular blender. It will work fine. And it's going to make a little bit of a noise. All right, I take it out. I shake it a little bit just to get everything mixed up really well. There we go. If you don't like cilantro, you don't have to add it. You can add parsley to this. and you will be just fine. And I want you to see how thick this is. You can put this over pasta. You can roast potatoes, and when they come out, the little baby potatoes, and when they come out, just slice them in half, let them cool just a tiny bit, because you want to add this to the potatoes while they're warm. This is just another way for you to be able to use this sauce. And of course it goes, or excuse me, dip dressing, and it also goes really well with iceberg lettuce, or just to dip your vegetables in. All right, well, thank you again for being with us on Saturday, and our thoughts and our best wishes are with everyone who is in the path of the storm. And up next is Jonna, and she is going to be making a spicy Thai salad dressing, and I can't wait to see what that's all about, because Thai food is another one of my favorites. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday.
Hello everybody. Thank you, Angelita, for the nice introduction. Welcome to our garden in Massachusetts. Today I am reaching you from my daughter's backyard. It's always nice to be in the US and visiting her in Massachusetts. It's also a rather nice day, though we're having some clouds come and go. I've been running around a lot last month in Abu Dhabi, the month before in Italy, and now from here. And our topic being salad dressings, I've chosen you a Thai-inspired spicy salad dressing because this month I'll be going to Thailand to do reconnaissance work for a tour I'm planning, a plant-based tour I'm planning for Thailand next year. So without any further ado, I will go to my recipe. It's got almond butter as a base, so it's already measured here 4 tablespoons of almond butter. Then it calls for 4 to 5 tablespoons of lime juice, which is already measured here. I'm putting it in there, but I have a little bit more extra here for just in case if I want to adjust the flavor. Then we have 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, which I will put in there. There it goes. And 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. I don't have that, and my daughter has liquid aminos, so that's what I'm using. So here comes the liquid aminos. We'll give it that salty, earthy taste. And a teaspoon of sriracha sauce. Here it is. You can use any brand you wish. Oh, this is not yet opened. I'm gonna open it. It will take some time. Here it is. Now it's open. Here we go. Somebody is blowing leaves. It's already autumn and leaves are falling, so one of the neighbors is blowing leaves and it's making a little bit of noise here. I hope you can hear me over that. And we have half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Now I have the garlic powder here, a half a teaspoon, but I've also got some frozen ginger. So I've already chopped a little. I'm going to add it there to give that extra zing of ginger. So this is a very easy recipe. You put everything in and you whisk it until it's all very nicely mixed. And now it looks like very much like almond butter, just thickened, but we have also water in our recipe. As always, our recipes are in the recipe booklet, and that's being shared online with you. And your questions, keep them coming now or also afterwards during the Q&A when everybody's recipes are finished. So now mine is a very thick one. As it is, you can use it as a dip or a spread or something. But if you add a little water at a time, you know, maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons at a time, and reach the consistency you want for using as a salad dressing or whatever else you would like to use this dressing for. Now this goes really nicely with fresh Thai spring rolls or a cabbage salad, or also on Asian inspired tacos or other wraps with Asian flavorings that you would like to use. And here it is. Now mine is more dressing like. I'm gonna take a little taste. This is yummy. And it would be wonderful for those spring rolls or your Asian inspired salad. Now, here's my recipe. I don't need to add any more lime juice as it is. It was very good. You can increase or decrease any of the ingredients to have better flavor for your liking. The thing about oil is that extra oil or any of these oils, as Dr. Campbell explains on his intro to whole food plant-based nutrition, the oils damage our endothelial layer of the arteries, which is really not very pleasant for anyone who has cardiovascular issues or cardiovascular disease. So if we can avoid processed oils, even too much oil in the form of nut butters and so on. So these we, of course, we eat them, but we try to limit such nuts and nut oils to a minimum. Well, that's all for me today. Now I'm being sabotaged by an airplane passing overhead. I pass my baton over to Susanna in Evansville, Indiana, and say goodbye to you from Massachusetts. I'll see you all in Abu Dhabi in November. Bye for now. Take it away, Susanna.
Thanks, Jana. That looks so good. I can't wait to try your recipe. Hi, everyone. I'm Susanna Dickman from Evansville, Indiana. You can follow me on eatplantsbewell.com to see the upcoming classes that I'll be offering. Thanks for taking time out on your Saturday to join us for our So Many Cooks, So Many Salad Dressings. Today I'm going to make what is my current favorite salad dressing. It seems like I go through a couple months where I want the same dressing and then I try a new one. So right now it's this great tahini dressing. And what I love about this dressing, first of all, is the tahini. I love tahini. It's got a really nutty flavor, and it combined with the ingredients, it just really, it just makes me enjoy eating my salads. And I love to use it for my green salads, but it really can be used for anything. So we're going to make this in our blender. It's really quick and easy. The first ingredient I'm going to put in is water, and it calls for about half a cup of water. Now, in the recipe, it does say you can use vegetable broth, and I pretty much, you know, when I have vegetable broth in the fridge, I will use that, but most of the time I just use the water because it's easy, and if I don't have any vegetable broth, it's not a big deal. So you're not going to lose any flavor by using the vegetable broth. And then I'm going to put in a 1/4 cup of tahini. Now tahini, we know, is from toasted sesame seeds, and tahini actually has a lot of health benefits. It does have a lot of magnesium and phosphorus and B vitamins, and it also has antioxidants. I love this little squeeze bottle too. It just really makes it easy to get out and doesn't make a mess. So let me go ahead and get my spatula and make sure that I get all of this out. There we go. What I'm gonna do to ensure that I get the rest out, this is apple cider vinegar, and I'm just gonna pour it in there so that I can move this around a little bit. I just don't like to waste any food. So I want to get all of this out of there. And I pretty much got it all out. So that worked. So we have apple cider vinegar, and here I doubled up. I put some tamari, or you can use liquid aminos. You can use coconut aminos if you want lower sodium. And there's lemon juice in here too. So that was the 2 ingredients in there. Next, some nutritional yeast. Got about 2 tablespoons. And then I like garlic too. So this is about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. That's it. I mean, how easy can you get? And sometimes I will double this recipe because then I don't have to make it as often. So I'm just going to blend this. It shouldn't take too long. You can see it's fairly liquidy. I wanted that consistency for my salad dressing. It will thicken up a little bit in the fridge when it sits, but that's all. So I have some that I made the other day, and I have my salad here. I like to put this on my green salad. So there's some red leaf lettuce and spinach and kale underneath here. And then I love carrots. So carrots are always, it's like sometimes people ask, do you like salad with your carrots? Because I love crunching salads. So I've just used what we're getting from our farm share, and that's cucumbers and zucchini, tomato and red onion. And I'm just gonna drizzle this on my salad and just dig in. This is going to be my lunch this afternoon when we're all done with the show. But I hope you try this dressing. It's really good for other things too. You can, sometimes I'll put it over potatoes. If you had like a cabbage slaw kind of, this would be a great dressing. If you didn't want to use a plant-based mayo, you can use this with cabbage and carrots and maybe Brussels sprouts to make a slaw. Just a great, great, simple, easy salad dressing that keeps in your fridge for about a week, and if it lasts that long. But just really good. So I hope you try this recipe.
Thank you, Suzanne, for that delicious tahini dressing. Hi, everyone. I'm Debbie Zimmerman from Central Florida. Today, we are going to be making apricot vinaigrette. I've started with 2 different types of apricot because before we can make the vinaigrette, we actually have to make an apricot paste. Now, you may be familiar with a date paste or a prune paste. Today we're making the apricot paste, and I'm using 2 different types of apricot. One is the unsulfured organics apricots. This has nothing but apricots, dried pitted apricots. So that's real simple. The other kind is the one that you will find in most grocery stores. I got this at Walmart this morning, and this one has no added sugar, but it does have several preservatives in there. And so what is the difference? The color is going to be the biggest difference. The ones that are unsulfured are going to be brown. They taste just like an apricot, but they are no preservatives. These, once you open them, you need to keep them in the refrigerator. The next one, the ones that are sulfured and also have the preservatives, those are nice and bright like a regular apricot. So what you want to do is figure out what your end product is going to be. One thing that I like about an apricot, date, or prune paste is I can use that in most recipes in place of sugar. So it makes it a very versatile way of sweetening something, but not getting that artificial sugar. Okay, so I am starting, I've already made one date paste, and this date paste is made with the unsulfured, unprocessed, or unpreserved date paste. So you can, or dates. So you can see that this is a much darker product. So I am going to make another paste with the apricots that have the preservatives, but no sugar added. What I did is I put my apricots in a container, I boiled water, and I covered the apricots just enough. Now, these have been sitting in the water since early this morning, and so they should be nice and plump and juicy. I'm going to add all of that water to my jar. I've already grated my lemon juice, or my lemon zest, and I've also grated my ginger. And all of that is in this nice little container, and I'm going to pour that in. The next thing that I do is I am going to, oh, by the way, the ginger is optional. So if you're going to be making a paste that you want to have that could be very universal, you may not want to add the ginger to it, okay? So I am going to mute myself for just a minute while I blend this, and I will be right back. As you can see, it really doesn't take too long to blend these. And once again, you have a beautiful paste, and you can smell the lemon, you can smell the ginger. It's absolutely delightful. So now we are ready. We can either use our bright yellow-orange paste, or we could use our darker paste. If you are making a vinaigrette that you are using dark balsamic vinegar, you could easily use this. But because I am using a white vinegar, and I wanted to show you, I am using the Olive Tap white vinegars. I don't know if you're familiar with these or not. I order these from Ohio. They are absolutely delicious. So that's what I'll be using. And you can see that it is a clear liquid. So I have my apricot paste, I have my vinegar in there, and now I am going to spoon approximately a half a cup. And if I want this to be a sweeter vinaigrette, I can add a little bit more to that, but about 4 heaping tablespoons is what I am putting in there. And then the next thing I am going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of horseradish mustard. And I use Annie's because it is lower in sodium, and I like that. It's also very, very delicious. We know that horseradish is actually in the cruciferous vegetable line, so we know that it's very good for us. And I'm just going to add this in here. And that is approximately 2 tablespoons of horseradish. Next, I am going to add 2 or 3 tablespoons of water, according to how thick we want it. And then the last thing that we're going to add is some freshly ground pepper. And I have my little whisk here, and I'm just going to give this a nice little whisk. As I splatter. Okay, and see how beautiful this comes out? It is a nice, rich salad dressing, vinaigrette. and it has that beautiful yellow golden tint to it. So now, what can we use this for? You can use a vinaigrette almost anything. Well, down in Florida, we're still quite hot, 94, 95. So I'm going to make a spinach salad. And I always like to start with a beautiful plate. And because when I have guests, they really do feel like that salad is something special. I'm using my organic spinach leaves as my basis. And make a gorgeous salad. I am going to add some freshly chopped carrots. And you know, I like a lot of carrots and I like a lot of crunch. So I want to be generous with my carrots. The next thing I am going to add are some slivered red onions, because that always adds to this. And you know, it just looks so delicious. And then I have my strawberries, my freshly sliced strawberries. So I want to put these on here. And this is just looking beautiful. And then the last thing I am going to do is shake some of my crushed walnuts on here. And then the very last thing, I have my beautiful vinaigrette. And I am going to drizzle that on top. And it's absolutely beautiful and so tasty. So everyone, here is my beautiful salad with my apricot vinaigrette. And this certainly is a crowd pleaser. It can be whipped together so quickly. And I know all of your company, as well as you, will be enjoying it. So thank you for joining us today. I am going to pass the baton to Carolyn Strickland. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Debbie. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Montgomery, Alabama. And today I'm going to make leftover hummus dressing 2 different ways. So have you ever had a whole bunch of hummus and didn't feel like eating just hummus with crackers and carrots? Well, or making a hummus wrap, and you have a bunch of leftover hummus. I had a bunch of leftover hummus after some classes I taught this summer, and I thought, I bet I could make salad dressing out of this. And so that's what we're doing. So I have hummus, leftover hummus dressing a couple of different ways. So I'm going to start with the first one. It's kind of a citrusy take on the hummus dressing. So I have a ½ cup of leftover oil-free hummus. I'm just going to add that to a blender. This one, I think you probably should make in a blender, because you'll see in a minute we're adding some mandarin oranges, just whole mandarin oranges to it. So that's going to work better in a blender. All right, so I've got my ½ cup of hummus, and then the juice of ½ of a lemon. So it's about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And I'm using this kind of red wine vinegar. Any red wine vinegar you have will do, but it's a tablespoon of red wine vinegar. And I'm using a teaspoon of liquid aminos just to kind of give it a depth of flavor. You could also use a low sodium soy sauce. That would work as well. And it's just 1 teaspoon of that. And 1 teaspoon of agave or maple syrup, or you could probably throw in 1 pitted date, and that would give you some sweetness as well. So that's also fine. All right, so that's 1 teaspoon of, I used agave, and then 2 mandarin oranges. So cuties or whatever you want to call them, you'll find them at most grocery stores. And then I just peeled them and just checked quickly to make sure there weren't any seeds, but you can see I'm using whole big pieces of it and just throwing them in. So that's 2 mandarin oranges worth, and a clove of garlic, So you could just go with a teaspoon of garlic powder if you would rather do that. Make it a smaller clove of garlic if you don't really like garlic that much, because one big clove like this is going to be pretty garlicky. And then 1 tablespoon of water. You could add more water if this comes out a little too thick for you. All right, we'll just give that a whirl. And that's how fast that one was. So that's very, and it smells so good. You could add fresh cracked pepper to it, just to taste however much you like. So taste it and see if you think it needs any pepper or a pinch of salt. Use iodized sea salt if you use salt. And then I'm going to hand this out. There we go. And the second one is also leftover hummus dressing with a completely different flavor profile. So this one is more like a balsamic vinaigrette, like what Mark made a little while ago, but it's using hummus. So it's going to be a little bit thicker. And he also used no oil, of course, but this is oil-free hummus, 1/2 cup again. And then balsamic vinegar. This one you could make in a bowl. So this one you don't really need to have the blender for it. If you just mince your garlic really fine by hand or with a garlic mincer or a garlic press. So I'm using 1 clove of garlic again. And then 1/3 cup of balsamic vinegar. I'm using this kind. Any kind of balsamic vinegar you can find will work. And it's 1/3 cup. And here's a weird ingredient, but it tastes really good in here. 2 tablespoons of applesauce. So it's going to give it just a hint of sweetness and kind of take the place of some of the oil that would be in traditional balsamic vinaigrette. It sounds a little weird, but it tastes really good. And then 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Also fresh cracked pepper to taste. So you can add more after you taste it when it's finished. A pinch of sea salt if you want some salt. And then we'll whirl that up. And we have 1 more ingredient to put in, but we don't want it to blend completely. All right. And that also smells really good, but it's totally different than the other one just because of the different flavors, more citrusy, balsamic vinegar flavored, more of an Italian flair to it. And to add a little more to that, I'm going to add some minced herbs. So you could just chop those up and stir them in. That would be great. Or you could I have a handy little, if I can get the top off, handy little, well, I can't get the top off. It's like a pair of scissors, but it's for herbs and it doesn't want to come off. It's not coming off. See if you can pull that off. I can't get the lid off. It is stuck on there. So you could just chop some fresh parsley. I have fresh parsley and fresh basil from my garden. And all right, so I'm going to just pull the leaves off of 1 stem of basil and a few stems of parsley. And let's see. So you could put that in the, we got the lid off. Okay, there we go. So this is a pair of scissors that looks like it has like 5 scissors to it. My mother got me this. Thank you, Mom. And it's just for chopping herbs. So you could do that, just kind of chop them up. Or you could put them in and just pulse your blender a couple of times. So if you're not using a blender, which is fine for this version of it, you don't need a blender, but you just want to stir the chopped herbs into it. Maybe pulse it a few times if you're using your blender, but if you're not using a blender and you're just doing it in a bowl, then you can just mince them up like this and stir them in, which gives your dressing kind of a nice bite of flavor every time you take a bite of your salad. Then it's going to, be delicious mixed in, having those fresh bites of basil and parsley. You could use oregano, any fresh herbs you like. And that's basically it. So I'm just going to dump those in there.
And what I would do, what we really like to do with this one is make a roasted vegetable salad. So we'll take fresh greens, spinach and baby kale, and then roast baby potatoes and squash and zucchini and green beans and carrots. And once they've come to room temperature, put those on the salad and drizzle it with this balsamic version of the leftover hummus dressing. It is so good. And then with the other one that has the oranges in it, it's really good for kind of a fresh spring mix with maybe chopped apples and chopped cutie oranges, mandarin oranges, some pears, some dried cranberries, some almonds, that kind of thing. So it's kind of fun to play with leftover hummus and just see what other things you can come up with. But I tend to have leftover hummus all the time. So it's a really good thing to do with hummus, is just make salad dressing. And then you're increasing the amount of fiber and protein you're getting in your salad too, with that delicious hummus added to your salad. So I think I'm last today, and that means we're about to go to Q&A, which today, if you ask a question during Q&A, remember you have to ask a question during the Q&A portion, you'll be entered in the drawing. And today we're giving away a Mezzaluna chopper, which I don't have one to demonstrate, I'm sorry, a Mezzaluna, and also some really beautiful wooden salad tongs. So we'll go to Q&A, and I'm going to send it back to Dilip.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. That was, as always, a very nice demonstration. Your mom's watching, and she just said hello. Hello, Mrs. May.
Hey, Mom.
So, thanks everybody for watching. We have a very nice giveaway, and we have a small Q&A today. Angelita had to step out, but she's on her way back, and she hopefully, fingers crossed, will join us as well. So I have some questions, and I invite our studio audience as well to feel free to share your questions, and all the questions. And Mark, I'm going to deputize you. Would you mind from this point on, any questions that come on, can you write one and then say, Mrs. May asks this question, say Mrs. May, and then maybe two, somebody else, and write their name. You can maintain a list, that'd be great. Okay, so there is a, okay, so your mom says hi, Carolyn. Thanks, James. Yeah, if you can turn it into a question, although you've got to go to work, so maybe you won't be able to be in the drawing, but thanks for watching, James. So I had a couple questions, and first of all, Mark, thanks so much for being back in the show. I know you've been really busy, and maybe you could take a minute. I know you did it during the show, but you could both answer the first question. So in your list, you could add Velma's name. So you could answer her question about what is 21-Day Quick Start. And welcome, Velma. We're so glad that you found us, and be curious to know how you found us. But Mark, maybe you could answer that question and tell us a tiny bit about your wonderful trips.
Thanks, Bill. Hello. It's just nice to be back. It's we've been just really busy on the road quite a bit. Was in Charleston and Asheville, and planning for about 5 trips this coming year. I'll be the chef for those, and I'll be cooking all whole food, plant-based, no oil. So all the recipes that y'all see on the various shows that we've had over the course of time. This year we're going to Santa Fe in October, kind of work backwards, Maine in September. Over the summer, July, we're going to Rocky Mountain National Park. In April, we're doing Zion and Utah, Bryce Canyon, and then the first one coming up, it will be in March, going to Sedona and the south rim of the Grand Canyon. So we have some exciting trips. We have 12 to 14 people, rent big houses. We do all the cooking, all the activities. It's all one price. All you got to do is get yourself there. Go to vegjohnsonjourneys.com. And my partner, Kim, who runs the travel side of the business, will get y'all hooked up. If you're currently interested and you put down a $500 deposit, you are automatically entered in a drawing to win that tour. So all you got to do is put down a $500 non-refundable deposit, and that goes through October 3rd. So what's that, through Monday at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you put down money for a tour by then, you could win any of those. And that goes also for Kim's international tours. So Veg Johnson Journeys saw a question come up there. Is it connected with PCRM? It's not connected with PCRM, but I am a Food for Life instructor, and all the recipes are in line with the Food for Life instructor recipes. So they're all whole food, plant-based, no oil recipes.
So Mark, I'm not sure if what the context of her question is. Our program is connected to PCRM in the sense that it's not sanctioned or officially PCRM, but we're all PCRM instructors.
We are.
That's the, yeah.
Yeah, who was that, by the way? I didn't get that lady.
Her name is Lee, and I apologize. Lee had problems getting the recipes. So Lee, I'm so sorry you couldn't get them, but please email me, dillip@somanycooks.com, and I will send you the PDF. And I'm sorry it didn't work. Our link is case sensitive, and that might have been the problem. And I apologize for that, Lee. So Mark, did you add Lee to the list of people?
Yep, got Lee on that too. So then in terms of PCRM, since we're talking about PCRM and we all are PCRM instructors, Food for Life instructors, the 21-day kickstarts are just a great way to get kickstarted on this whole food plant-based diet. If you go to PCRM and search for the 21-day kickstart, there's actually an app and a whole process and program to follow to get you going on this whole food plant-based diet. There's menus and recipes and support, and it's all free. So I know a lot of my students from time to time have tried that. That's a really nice adjunct to some of the classes that a lot of the cooks that are on So Many Cooks in the Kitchen offer. It's a self-guided program that's absolutely free, and it's all supported and written by nurses, physicians, and registered dietitians. Yep.
Velda is asking if there's any instructors in South Texas, so please check out fflclasses.org. I will say this much, that the Food for Life program did begin in Texas with our cancer project, and I can't remember where the cancer project was, what city in Texas, but if you go to FFL Classes, you'll find classes all over, including virtual. I think, Mark, you offer some virtual classes, so you can take Mark's class even if you're not in the Chicago area.
No, Karen is in Austin, so I can't remember how far south that is, but Karen's in Austin.
Mark, please add Krista to the list. How long do most of the dressings stay good for? And I'll answer that. It varies, but in general, I mean, if you're using vinegar is a preservative. With vinegar, it's going to last for a week or more, maybe a couple weeks. You'll lose some freshness. So, and most of these recipes are so easy. I recommend just blending it up and using it in a day or two, but most of these will stay for several days. You're welcome. Thank you, Velma, for asking the question, and let us know how you found us. And I hope that you're going to become a regular. We've been doing this for over 2 years, and we've been missing you. So I'm so glad, Velma, you found us. So send us in the chat how you found us. Here's a comment from Chris Sullivan. I like your shirt. I can't really read it. Something about, is it Los Angeles? I am strong because I know my Los Angeles or something. I can't read it. My molasses. So Chris is asking, I find plenty of whole food plant-based recipes, but have a very hard time finding whole food plant-based no oil recipes, especially for desserts. Yes, I can recommend a couple of resources. So everything we do, So Many Cooks in the Kitchen, so somanycooks.com, and every show's recipe is linked on somanycooks.com. We have our hope, my fingers are crossed, to generate, and Mark is very involved with this, a search function. The idea, Chris, is you can say, well, I like what they're doing in So Many Cooks, and it's all whole food, plant-based, no oil, but I'm allergic to pumpkin, and I don't eat onions, and I'm gluten-free. So let me search on all recipes that are that don't have gluten and don't have pumpkin and don't have onion, and then you'll get a list. Hopefully, this is our idea. I don't know if it'll work. We're hoping for that. And then you can say, but forget about that dillip. I just want Mark's recipes and Carolyn's recipes. So show me just Mark and Carolyn's recipes, right? And any recipe except for the ones with seitan. And then you'll have a bunch of recipes and say generate a PDF. So that's the hope. Other sources, Chris, for no oil are anything on PCRM, PCRM.org. And one of my favorite, and that's an excellent source for sure. But another one of my favorites is Susan Voisin's. What is it? It's fatfreevegan.com.
Fatfree vegan.
And I think that's all no oil. So
Forks Over Knives. Forks Over Knives has a lot of really good ones too.
Yeah. Mark, you have Chris's name?
I do.
Excellent. Okay, let's see some more questions. Okay, let's see. Hyacinth, the person who made the apricot dressing, can you use some other dried fruit? And I can't remember who. I think that was Debbie. But
it was Debbie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you
can
could.
use. Absolutely. Dried peaches would go great. Yeah, any dried fruit, cranberries, it would, change the flavor. But yeah, absolutely.
Fried
Yeah, thanks,
apple would be
Kristen.
very interesting.
Yeah, it would change the flavor profile, but experiment. This is,
Hmm.
I think, what many of us do. This is what I do. I don't generally use recipes. I create my own recipes and I
Right.
change things. Thanks, Chris. And thanks, Krista. Of course, Forks Over Knives is a great resource. Thanks for sharing that. I don't think, Krista, you've asked a question. So ask a question and you can be in the drawing for our prizes as
No,
well.
Krista did. How long will
Okay.
the dressing last? Yeah.
Yep, you did.
Oh, and Chris Sullivan, I am strong because I know my weaknesses. Okay.
That's good. That's very true, right? We got to know our weaknesses.
Chris, you guys know me for food, but I'm also a math teacher, and I tell my students that. And even once last year, one of my second graders found a mistake in my arithmetic, so I make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes.
Oh
I
my.
love when a second grader finds a mistake in my math. That makes me so proud.
That's awesome. I saw a question earlier, Dilip, about ginger root.
Okay,
Way
who asked that?
earlier.
Okay.
I can't. It was pretty early on in the show. Maybe when you were talking still, or whoever was right
Yes.
after you.
Somebody asked
Um,
about if it's wilted a bit, and we did answer that you could freeze it. And I also said after my segment, I said as long as it's not molded, even if it's wilted, especially if you're blending it, it's still fine.
well, interestingly, you could also cut off the moldy spot if it's molded and still use
Right.
it because mold doesn't spread easily through ginger root. But also, the way to store ginger really well is to make sure you don't peel it and then put it in a Ziploc, something airtight in the refrigerator, because you don't want oxygen getting to it, because that's what makes it wilty. So if you keep it whole and with the peel still on in something airtight, it should last quite a while in the refrigerator. But yes, you can also freeze it.
And I'll give you my kitchen hack. Everything Carolyn said is absolutely true, but I'm lazy. What I do with my ginger, I just throw it in the refrigerator. And then, yeah, it dehydrates a little faster, but then, I just try to remember to use it. So, yeah, do what Carolyn
Right.
said, not what I do, but that's it. There was a question here. Let's see. Oh yeah, Bonnie's making a comment. I use this Chipotle ranch dressing all the time, but not very healthy. Yeah, looking for a vegan dressing. So here's a hint. When you have like a creamy dressing, a couple things you can substitute are cashews, but they are high in fat, so don't use a lot, or tofu. Tofu is a good choice to make something creamy. And sometimes if you're out of, like yesterday I made a sauce and I didn't have cashews, I put a couple Brazil nuts. So Brazil nuts, my friend Brenda Davis is a big advocate for Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are one of the few sources of selenium, and you don't want to eat too much selenium. I mean, you'd have to eat tons of Brazil nuts to get too much because it does have some ill effects. But Brenda recommends that most people should eat, a couple Brazil nuts a day, maybe 4 or 5 times a week, 2 or 3 Brazil nuts, and we try to do that. And so you can blend Brazil nuts, and you make a very nice creamy dressing, and that'll be lower in
So,
fat than.
Dilip, I make a Chipotle ranch dressing, and I should have done that today, but I just had leftover hummus I wanted to use. But I make a creamy ranch Chipotle dressing. So the way I do it is I start with the ranch dressing, and that is 1 container of the shelf-stable silken tofu. Drain it to get any extra liquid out. Add a couple tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, some garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, and parsley and dill. Teaspoon of each if you have dried. And if you have fresh, maybe a tablespoon of each. And then whirl that all up, and that gives you the ranch dressing. And then you can just add some Chipotle Tabasco, a couple of squirts of Chipotle Tabasco, and you have Chipotle ranch dressing. So I should have made that today. But
Bernadette has a question. Good to see you again, Bernadette. Bernadette session. When freezing ginger, should you grate it first or freeze whole? I would grate it. What do you say, Carolyn?
I wouldn't freeze it whole. So I would probably go ahead, peel it, chop it into at least little sections, and then freeze it, because that way it's easier to use when you take it out. Because sometimes vegetables, when we freeze them whole, what happens when they're thawing is they start to get kind of mushy. So go ahead and peel it and cut it in little cubes at least. That's what I would do. But
Mark, please add her name, and please add Bonnie Martin's name too. Bonnie asked a question which I think has already been answered now. Can I modify these to make a Chipotle dressing? For example, with the tofu dressing, could I use Chipotle instead of the jalapeno, or would I need to change the rest of the ingredients? So did you want to add anything more, either of you guys, to this?
I think the questions. I mean, they're great questions, and one of the things we talk a lot on the show about, and I talk with students about, is recipes are guides, and feel free to edit those according to your own taste. Some of the best recipes I've done for family and then on our tours are ones that I take and morph based on my own taste, because I always tell people I don't serve anything to anyone that I don't like. So if I don't like something in it, for example, I really don't like sweet potatoes. Kind of funny, right? Here's a whole food plant-based chef that doesn't like sweet potatoes. I don't like the Beauregards, kind of the standard sweet potatoes. However,
Japanese.
I like the Japanese ones,
So
for
good.
example. I'm going to do a recipe next month that's a sweet potato mousse. So I like that. So cook what you like, and add the ingredients that you like. If you don't like something, pull it out. If it's the recipe's a failure, you're going to test it anyways. Oh well. So play with it, be creative, kind of lean into your creative side of your personality when you're cooking, and put the love into it. It really is about passion and love into our cooking. And when you make it your own, that comes through in the dish, and your guests and your family and friends appreciate that.
Carolyn,
Play with
you
your
have the
food.
Play with your food. Yeah.
Play with your food.
Bonnie's asking if you have the chipotle dressing written down. Did we use it in any of our shows?
No, it's just one I make a lot, but I need to get that written down. That would be a good idea. So,
Bonnie, why don't you bug Carolyn if you're willing to send her an email, Carolyn@somanycooks.com. And
Right.
I volunteered you, Carolyn. So
yeah, I'll get
an
it
email
written
from
down.
Bonnie
I need
Barton.
to write it down.
There's your incentive. So Bonnie, go ahead and email Carolyn@somanycooks.com, and then hopefully Carolyn will be inspired to write it down. Kathy has a question, which I had a question on this as well. So Mark, during your segment, you had a big container and it said large yeast. And I was wondering, is that another name for nutritional yeast? I've never seen that. And that might be what Kathy's asking. Is all nutritional yeast alike, or is there something that distinguishes one from another?
Well, so that large yeast that was from Amazon, and I can't remember the actual manufacturer. It's Harbor something, but we use so much nutritional yeast. I just go to our friends at Amazon or any of your online retailers and get that big bucket of it. Now, with that said, some people have a preference to various manufacturers, right? So I know one. There's an organic one called Nooch or something like that. Use the ones that you like. I mean, I think the one that said large yeast has a very cheesy flavor. It works fine for me. Sometimes you'll see those smaller containers, almost like a spice-sized jar, in the grocery stores. I personally don't like those. They just don't have a lot of cheesy flavor. That's me, however. So Krista, you're making a really good point too. Some nutritional yeasts are fortified and some aren't. The one that I use and it's fortified typically with B12 and some other vitamins, which is one of the things we want to be concerned about, is making sure that we do get enough of B12. That's a whole nother topic, but I would try to experiment with them and use the one that you like.
And by the way, Mark's comment's a good one, and it's not as vegans; it's as people. Once you're 50 and above, then which accepts Mark and Carolyn. They're in their 30s or 40s, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got that by 10 plus years. So you, Dave. Wait a second. So you.
Mark and I differ by like 2 weeks in birthdays.
Yeah, right.
But anybody, especially 50 and above, the recommendation is to make sure you have a reliable source of B12. It's not because as vegans we're not getting the foods we need. It's that we purify our food too much. That's the reason. And people don't get B12 from meat. They get it from gut microbiota. They get it from the gut, actually, not the microbiota, the gut. Lee's comment here. The problem was that the comments were not appearing for me. Okay, so Lee, it sounds like you got the recipes, and I apologize for all the trouble. I'm glad that you finally got it. So sorry about that. There was a question here from Hyacinth. How long will hummus dressing, Carolyn?
How long will it last?
Yeah, the hummus dressing.
It never lasts longer than a couple days around here, but because we eat it. But I mean, both of them have vinegar. So this one has the red wine vinegar. This one has balsamic vinegar. So they're going to last at least a week in the refrigerator, but they never last that long because we just eat them because they're really good. So, but I would go at least a week.
Kathy asked the question, is there a trick to grating lemons or limes, or is it the age of the fruit that matters? I tried grating, it was a battle. Right. And so the trick with this, the best way to do that, well, there's a couple things. You can get a zester, and the one I have, it's small. It has 4 little holes, and you put a little pressure on your index finger, and you just push it down the lime or lemon. It works best if you have, and the side you're pushing is smooth. The rough side is the one on the lemon lime side, or citrus. You can do it with tangerines and oranges. Couple tricks. Use organic. I wouldn't want to use the peel of something that's not organic. The second thing is use something that's firm. So if you wait too long and it's gotten dehydrated, lemons mold really quickly. So you want to throw them in the refrigerator if they're, if they're starting to show age. But you want something that's firm. And if, what's the phrase about if you have lemons, work with them? So do what you have, work with what you have. So if you have, loose lemons, then it'll just be a little bit harder. And the trick is, I used to teach this, I still teach this class called Ethnic Vegetarian Cooking, and I would show my students live how to zest. And it's fun because once you get your appliance, whether it's the kind that I described or you can get microplaners, you have to know how much pressure. If you put too much pressure, you get the pith. So here's where it's good to be prejudiced with color. You want the color. You don't want the white in this case. The white is bitter pith. So you want the yellow, the green, orange if it's tangerine or orange, and you want to leave behind the white part. The white part is bitter. Now, if you get some of the white part, no big deal. It's not unhealthy. It just won't taste as good. So in my segment, you may have noticed I talked about when I removed the skin. I'm a lazy cook, so in one half of my citrus, I was very careful to get the pith off, but I lost some of the fruit. And the other side, I left a little bit of the white, and I had maintained more of the citrus. So it's kind of up to you to figure things out. Okay.
Hey,
yeah.
Philip, I got a question. Our friend Lee, did she ask a question? She's kind of been active here.
No, so Lee, please ask a question, and then you'll be in the drawing. Okay. But the main thing is that Lee got the documents.
Yeah.
And Krista, I agree with you. I love sweet potatoes, but I agree with Mark that sometimes things that are good for you, Mother Nature's created a wide palette, and I think it's for survival, right? Maybe one day we all believe, for example, kale is really good for you. So if you go to Whole Foods Market, they rank kale 1,000 on the scale of 1,000 of the aggregate nutrient density index score. But what if one day, oops, we goofed, kale is not good for you, which I don't think is going to happen. But what if it did? And how about those handful of people who don't like kale, and the rest of us go kaput and we die, and the others know it? I'm exaggerating, obviously. You're not going to die eating kale. But I think that's why Mother Nature does that. I think that there's perfectly healthy foods my daughter doesn't eat. But there's so many foods, it's okay if, my daughter doesn't eat, a certain food, like she doesn't eat tempeh, so I don't serve her tempeh, I serve her tofu, right? And sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes, but I'm with Mark. For me, the Japanese sweet potato is just amazing. It's so wonderful. It's purple. It's like a brownish purple on the outside. You cut the end, and you see it's like a creamy white on the inside, and it just, I don't know the history of it. Maybe it was originally from Japan, but it grows here in North Carolina. It's local. When I buy it, it's a locally organic Japanese sweet potato. I'll probably be buying some today.
Yeah, so, I was doing a little research for our next show, and I did not know this, that there are 14 varieties that are sold in the United States. Never knew that. So there's a lot of other sweet potatoes out there that a lot of us don't even know about. So probably at your specialty markets and certain farmers markets, you're going to find all those other varieties.
Kathy, that's a good idea. You could freeze an older lemon to get firmness. You could try that. Yeah. So Krista, I don't know where you live, but yeah, ask at the market, could you please get some Japanese sweet potatoes? I know, Carolyn, you have some limits in your marketplace. Do you get Japanese sweet potatoes in Alabama?
Used to when I had a Whole Foods, but actually there's a farm about, that's a long story, but yeah, we lost all our Whole Foods in the south part of Alabama, Montgomery, Mobile, everybody's Whole Foods closed. There's one in Birmingham, but there's a farm about an hour north of here that grows Japanese sweet potatoes. So I was actually just thinking when you guys were talking about it, I need to get in touch with that farmer and get some Japanese sweet potatoes because I think they're about to be in season. I'm pretty sure getting into Japanese sweet potato season. So, yeah.
And Mark, Lee did ask a question. So Lee is.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lee.
And let's see. Oh, and your mom, Carolyn, your mom asked a question, and here's
Oh,
the
yeah,
question. So,
Judy,
Mrs. May,
Judy,
Yeah.
what are the uses of for tahini besides salad dressing?
Lee, that
Oh,
was just a
tahini.
test to see if
Funny,
you're
yeah.
still paying attention. So thanks, Lee.
No, she asked the question. There's a lot of good uses for tahini besides salad dressing. I mean, hummus, it's kind of one of the main ingredients in most hummus recipes is just at least a little bit of tahini. Also, just other sauces. I make a really good sriracha tahini sauce. So, yeah.
Yeah, we make a mock tuna salad, and so instead of using mayonnaise, we use tahini, and it just totally changes the flavor profile and the palate, the feel on your palate. It just helps all the flavors linger a little bit more because that tahini is thicker. So it's a beautiful recipe.
Carolyn, I wish we could ask your mom a question. So here's the question for Mrs. May. Carolyn is such a great cook, and I have to believe that a lot of the credit goes to you, even though Carolyn didn't grow up plant-based, but I could just imagine what an amazing cook you must be. I mean, if Carolyn is a great cook, so I bet a lot of credit goes with you, Mrs. May. And
she's a very good, she's a very good cook.
Thanks for raising such a wonderful cook, such a compassionate and wonderful person. Okay, let's see. There was a question. Kathy, did we answer this question? I know we talked about this, and if we didn't put Kathy's name down, then let's do that.
Yep, I got it.
Let's see. And then there's a new question. So, okay, there was a question about porous tofu, and let me answer this, Kathy. So, I usually forget, but a really cool trick with tofu when you buy it is you buy it. This is the water pack tofu, not the shelf stable tofu, and you stick it in your freezer and let it get frozen. And then, give it 8 hours, 10 hours overnight. And then if you want to use it the next day, put it on your counter for like 8 hours, or just put it in the refrigerator for a full day or so, and it'll defrost. And there's something about the freeze thaw cycle which makes the tofu more porous, and the porosity allows it to pick up more flavor as well. I'm one who loves tofu plain. When I'm cooking, like I was cooking with tofu yesterday, I chopped some pieces while I was cooking, just ate it. I like raw tofu. A lot of people don't. They say it's too bland. They like to mix something in. I like it with things, and I like it by itself. I really don't mind some cube tofu in a salad or just by itself. But you can make it more porous by doing a freeze-thaw cycle. So that's a good question. Kathy also mentioned bready. So what does bready mean? I'm not sure what your point is. Krista says no Whole Foods, and you don't need a Whole Foods for Japanese sweet potato.
Right.
I'm near Rochester, so Krista, do you know about? So Carolyn and I, and Mark talked a little bit about his shows, so his trip. So Carolyn and I do something, and Cody do something called plant-based immersions. We were also in Asheville, like a week after you were, Mark, and we had our own immersion there. So check out Rochester Lifestyle Medicine, and you can read about our immersions. We haven't set the dates. We're going to have probably next year also in Asheville and in Oak Island. And you don't know this, Carolyn, but we've been invited to do an immersion not far from you, Krista, at a Buddhist monastery or something where they have a kitchen and lodging in Rochester. So
cool. Sign me up. Okay.
So Krista, you should be able to find Japanese sweet potatoes. I know, you know what you have, Krista, is you have Wegmans, and you should find them at Wegmans. Okay. And Lee made a comment.
Big and purple.
Yeah. And Lee says Lee's in Canada, and Costco used to have Japanese sweet potatoes. Okay. Okay. And then here, Krista, I think it's the Hannah yams that Chef AJ loves.
They are.
Okay. And here, your mom, it's difficult to learn that all the things we used to think were healthy, we now find are not cow's milk. But Mrs. May, I applaud you because Carolyn's super young. You're maybe 50, right? If she's like there, right? So even though you're still pretty young, Mrs. May, the fact that because a lot of people, once they've, passed college and all, they kind of are ossified. This is what we're doing. And the fact that you're open to this and saying, I learned when I was younger that cow's milk's good for me, and my brilliant daughter has showed me otherwise. The fact that you've imbibed that is thumbs up to you. And I heard that when you're with Carolyn, and probably when you're without her, you eat very, very well. So thanks for joining the show, Mrs. May. And then Krista had a comment. Yeah, Wegmans should have it, and you might be able to ask them. Okay, Mark, how many people do we have who've asked questions? And I'm going to ask a couple, and then we'll do the drawing.
We have 10.
10, excellent.
Wow.
Susanna sent me a message. She actually had to run, but I had a question for her, and I'm wondering if one of you could answer, and that's about broth. And the question about broth is, I forgot what the question is. I just wrote broth. So I'll say a word about broth and see if either of you guys want to add to that. So broth, you can buy containers of broth, and they're usually pretty inexpensive, and they just have vegetables in it. When you buy it, make sure it's vegan, because they have, like, I think, dead animal broth and things, which I totally just ignore. But it's easy peasy to make your own broth. I don't do it often. I just don't like to, clean extra dishes. I don't like to leave things unattended in the kitchen. You shouldn't. And so this is the classic way to make broth. You put your onion skins, your garlic peels, any refuse from your kale stems, herbs that you're not using, things that you're not using. We compost it, but instead of composting, put it in a big pan, put 9 times as much water. This is all approximate. So just dump in 9 times as much water, bring it to a boil. And if you want, you can add a little bit of salt and some fresh herbs if you want, and then simmer it for about 3 hours, covered, partially covered. You can open it once in a while, and then you're done. And then decant it. The solids left behind, now that you should compost or grind in your sink or something, and the brown liquid will be your stock. You can also put it in your pressure cooker. And I have a recipe in my pressure cooker document, which I think is bit.ly/Dillip's pressure cooking notes or something like that. And I talk about it there. Would either of you guys like to say anything about broth?
I'd save mine. I keep big bags in the freezer and put stalks, carrot tops, kale stems, broccoli stalks, the part that I'm not using if it's too woody. Just keep it in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. And then when I get my Ziploc bag full, then cook it in just some boiling water, dump it in frozen, and then let it just simmer for a few hours. Maybe add a pinch of some pepper, maybe a little nutritional yeast, like a couple teaspoons, and maybe some, liquid aminos, just a dash of liquid aminos. It's a really good broth, just like that. But freezing it, that way you can go longer, instead, I do compost a lot of things, but if you have some really good pieces of broccoli and carrots and kale and whatever, I just do it in the freezer. And that way, when the Ziploc bag gets full, then it's time to make broth.
I don't find kale adds bitterness. And when you make a broth, if it's bitter, then just add some lemon juice and add some herbs if it's too bitter for you. So the benefit of the kale stems is you're getting all the wonderful nutrition from the kale stems. And in fact, in our Food for Life classes, when we make smoothies with kale, usually with kale, I hand rip the leaf from the stem and then I compost the stem. But if you're blending it, you can throw it in. I'll cut the very ends, which are maybe a little rough, but then I blend the whole thing so you get all the nutrition. And Bernadette, no more Whole Foods in Montgomery. When I'm visiting friends in Tuskegee, that was my go-to grocery shop after the Natural Market store closed. You didn't tell me, Carolyn, you have a natural market. Those Bomber Red sweet potatoes are coming into season. So yeah, so Carolyn can speak for half an hour about her remorse about her sadness that there's no Whole Foods.
Yeah, well, I'm sad. I'm also angry, but yeah, I'm sad. I'm mad. I have all those experiences. But yeah, we do have a Healthwise grocery store on Atlanta Highway. They just don't have a very large produce section. They have just all the other stuff. So,
Mark, did I interrupt you? Were you going to say something about broth?
No. The only thing I would add is that there are the what do you call it, the little mixes that you could use, like either cubes or the jars and stuff. Just note that sodium. That's good, but sodium's high in those. Nothing replaces the fresh broth, from all the scraps and everything that Carolyn and Bill said. But I do use that in a pinch.
And Bernadette's bringing this question up too: is won't kale make the broth bitter? And so now that we have 2 people asking that, if that's the case for you, I mean, I like kale greens and stems. The greens that I didn't use in cooking. But if you don't like the flavor, then make it your own and say no kale stems in my broth. That's fine. It's still going to be really healthy. So suit yourself. Kathy asked a question. I'm sorry, I used a word that decant. Decant means pour off slowly so that the grounds remain behind. So decant. I don't drink wine, but I think wine drinkers talk about decanting to leave the grounds behind. So decant just means pour it through cheesecloth perhaps or through a sieve, and then the solid matter that's left, compost it or grind it up in your sink, and the liquid is your broth. Thanks for asking. I'm sorry for not being clear there. Okay.
I was just
I had a
looking at my Dilip. I was just looking at this, a different kind of chicken style. It's vegan chicken style instant broth and seasoning that the Seventh Day Adventist store carries, which we do have a Seventh Day Adventist store here.
nice.
So that's an option too. And just you can take a few teaspoons out. It's potato flour and garlic powder and onion powder and herbs and turmeric and celery, and so it's all dried, and you can just whisk it up really quickly and make a broth out of something like that. But we do have a Seventh Day Adventist store. At least there's that.
So there are advantages and disadvantages. We try to be as close to whole food plant-based as possible. And if you're buying things in the store for convenience, I like having convenience foods. And sometimes they're somewhat processed. And the good side is it's fast, it's quick. You can grab something and use it. And I'm an advocate for that. So I do buy some products like that. But the downside is watch the nutrition. Watch, how far is it from whole food plant-based, and is it high in sodium? Because the expectation is the sodium will help preserve it. And sometimes people open it and then they put it in the refrigerator but don't use it for a while, so they preserve it. So one example is soy sauce, which I like, but I don't buy soy sauce. It's just way too salty for me. But I buy something called coconut aminos. And the benefit of coconut aminos is that it's gluten-free. To me, and Mark and Carolyn, tell me if you disagree, it tastes just like a full-bodied soy sauce. It tastes salty and all. And I don't know where the magic is, but you read the label, and the sodium is much, much less. It's like a third or maybe a quarter of what it is in soy sauce. I don't know how they do it. And it's just a coconut product. So the downside is it's expensive. So for those of you like me, I don't spend money on lots of things, but I do spend money on food, and I don't generally have a budget. I buy whatever I want. And so I'm privileged that way. Many people don't have that privilege. So if you are constrained with spending money, then you may say, well, Mark and Carolyn and Dilip talked about coconut aminos, but it's too expensive for me. A bottle of that will run you like, what, $7, $8? The same bottle of soy sauce will be like $2. And so maybe it's a privilege that I enjoy buying it. So if you decide you can't afford that, then there are reduced sodium tamaris, which are better with sodium. I find they don't taste the same as soy sauce, but they're good. They're fine. Okay. All right. Any final questions? We're going to do the draw. We have two really fun prizes. We have these, they're like hands, and they're made out of bamboo, and they mix salads. I don't have that. Maybe I should get one for myself. And I do have a mezzaluna, but the one we're giving away is a much better one than one I have. It's big, and it looks really cool. A mezzaluna, do either of you guys have a mezzaluna right in front of you that you can show on camera?
I don't, yeah.
I have one, but I'm not going to run over there. So a mezzaluna is like a curved blade. Mine has two blades. And what you do, it's great for herbs. You put it on a cutting board, and then you just do a rocking motion, and you get nice chopping. And the nice thing is that it keeps your fingers away from the blade. And the one we're giving away, I think, is a single blade one, and it's big, and it's good for chopping all sorts of things. So those are our two giveaways. And Mark, would you please read the list of people who asked questions, and we'll pause to see if anybody had a question which we had forgotten to list.
So I've got Velma and Lee and Velda, Krista, Hyacinth, Bernadette, Bonnie, Kathy, Lee, and Judy.
Okay, if any of you asked a question and Mark didn't read your name, then please post right now in the next minute or so. And while we're answering Bernadette's question, Bragg's liquid aminos is another good choice. I don't remember what it's like with sodium. I like coconut aminos.
310 milligrams per 1 teaspoon.
Fair amount, but it's better than soy sauce.
Better than soy sauce, yeah.
Coconut aminos is something like 180 milligrams, I think, something like that.
That's about half.
Oh, no, let's add Chris's name. So
yeah.
Chris Sullivan.
Chris Sullivan, got it.
So we have 11 folks that we're drawing.
11.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the drawing. And what we always do, I'm using something called random.org. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, where did my random number? I'm going to generate a random number from 1 to 11. This one won't count, just as a dry run. and then we'll see what would happen. So the first thing we'll give away is the hands, the bamboo things. And here's the thing: if you win before we're done with the show, please email. So Karen does the fulfilling, but she's wasn't able to come to Q&A. So please email me. And would one of you put my email address, dillip@somanycooks.com?
Yep.
Please email dillip@somanycooks.com, hopefully before we say bye. And then what I need your name and mailing address. And then if you want, you can copy Karen at somanycooks.com, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to forward it to her. But at least send it to me. Ideally, send it to dillip@somanycooks.com and copy Karen at somanycooks.com if you win. Okay. So here's the dry run. I am going to run 1 to 11. And the rule is the same person can't win twice. So if I draw a 3 and then a 3, the second time we'll roll again. So if this were the actual draw, we would have drawn 4. Who is number 4 on your list, Mark?
Krista.
Okay, so Krista, if this were real, then you would have won the first prize. All right, so let's do it. So we're going to give away the salad tongs. I'm going to draw a number from 1 to 11, and the winner is 7. So who is 7? And I'll write this down.
Bonnie Martin.
Bonnie Martin. So Bonnie, could you please email? I'm going to write Bonnie Martin got the tongs. I have it written, but it would help also in your email if you say, I won the tongs. Sorry, Krista, you still have a chance to win the second draw. Okay, so Bonnie, please email, and please comment here that you're doing it, so we'll know, and I'll look at my email, my phone while you're doing that. So Bonnie, please send, okay. Yep, I got your note, Mark. Good. So, yay, Bonnie. Okay, so Bonnie, will you send me an email? Dillip@somanycooks.com, and just comment, I won the tongs. And while Bonnie's doing that, let's do the second prize. And the second prize is the Mezzaluna. Okay. Krista said, oh man, one of these days. Okay, good. Yeah, congratulations, Bonnie. Okay, good. So let's do the draw for the Mezzaluna. Great tool to have. Mark or Carolyn, do you guys have a Mezzaluna? I love mine.
I have Alaskan Ulu, which is the same thing, and I actually got it in 1990 when I was in Alaska with my wife, and it looks almost identical, to the Mezzaluna.
It's Dillip, D-I-L-I-P, Dillip@somanycooks.com. You know what's so funny, Mark, is that's where I got mine too, and it was in the 1990s, I think. We might have been in the exact same store, and we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
I bought mine at a tourist store, and it has "Welcome to Alaska" or something. It's not big. It's
Yeah, mine's little. It's actually got I hate to say this, a whale bone for the handle.
Oh, okay.
Oh, gee.
Pre-vegan days for you. I was
pre-vegan.
a vegan.
So, I almost bought one in Alaska.
Next time we're on,
they sell a lot of them in Alaska, apparently.
That's like a whole lifetime ago. Holy cow.
Next time we're on together, let's both grab ours and hold them up, and maybe they're identical. Maybe we were in the very same store and rubbing shoulders with each other. It's possible. I was on my bike. I was biking through Alaska.
Oh,
so.
no, yeah, I was, yeah.
All right, so let's draw for the Mezzaluna. From 1 to 11. If we get 7, we'll draw again. So let's draw. The number is 10. Who's number 10?
Mark Cirkvenick. Oh, no. Judy May?
Hey, Mrs. May. Okay.
Oh,
so
wait a second. I thought family and friends can't win.
Oh, come on.
So we don't have to wait on that one because, Carolyn, do you know how to find your mom?
I do.
She can run, but you can't hide, right? So, Mrs. May, congratulations. You got the Mezzaluna. And Carolyn, did you say you have a Mezzaluna?
No, I don't.
So,
I'll just borrow hers when I'm at her house.
That's right. So now when you go to visit, and let's see, Bonnie said she sent me an email. Let's see if I got it. I got it. Yay, Bonnie. Okay, good. And Bonnie, in your email, you sent your address. Excellent. Good. Yay, Mrs. May, you got it. So can Carolyn play with it when she visits?
She's excited.
That worked out well. And the rest of you, try again. We love giving prizes away. Oh, Chef AJ got hers in Alaska too. Is that what you're saying, Kathy? Maybe.
Jeez, that's
I
too
think
funny.
they sell a lot of them there.
It was.
That's really
Yeah,
funny.
it got me, 35 years ago, whatever, 32
I,
years
I
ago.
almost bought, we were there back in 20, when was that? 2013? I can't remember. And I almost bought one. I looked and my husband said, I don't think you have room in your suitcase. So I didn't buy it, but almost did. So
Well, nowadays, I'm not sure you can put one. Well, in your checked luggage, you almost certainly couldn't, right? So.
well, and the ones that go under the plane, yeah, not in
Yeah,
your
you get the
carry-on,
check
but
ones,
you can
not-
put it in
not
your
the,
check luggage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not the carry-ons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So with that, I enjoyed today's show. It was a fun show. For me, it was nice because I don't generally use salad dressings. I just do what my mom did. I put a little bit of lemon juice or lime, salt and pepper. But once in a while, I do make salad dressing like the one I did today. And all the dressings that all of you guys made look really excellent. And I'd like to try as many of them as I can. And I invite you guys. One message I would like to leave you with is salads are healthy, or they should be healthy. Make the dressing healthy. A lot of restaurants you go to, and I wrote about that in my document section of the document, they slobber on all this very high fat dressings. And first of all, you lose the flavor of the vegetables and you add all this fat. So so I encourage you to, be mindful of your dressings. Maybe be minimalistic and try the lemon juice, salt, and pepper. It's great. It tastes really good. The freshness comes out. Or any of the dressings we shared today would be healthy choices as well. Thanks, Krista. We love having you. And as I said, you're in Rochester, so if you're not connected with, please do connect with Rochester Lifestyle Medicine. My good friend Ted runs it. It's a great group. I bet you know about it. And Bonnie, we enjoyed having you, and thanks for trying these. Anybody, even after the show, you can post on So Many Cooks, on our Facebook, I guess on the YouTube page too. We started the YouTube page relatively recently, and I was really happy today. I don't know if you noticed, Mark, we had just as many. At the moment, we have more YouTube watchers at this second than Facebook watchers, which is neat. So I'm glad more and more people are finding us on YouTube. Those of you who are new, we'd love to hear how you found us, and we hope that we've earned your eyeballs every month as much as possible. We love having you in the audience to share. And our next show is So Many Sweet. No, actually, our next show is the Saturday before Halloween. The kids in the kitchen, including my daughter Anuragini. We haven't published it, but the idea, I think, is that they're going to be dressed up in Halloween costumes, and they're going to be sharing. The kids in the kitchen are ages 6 through 13. The 6-year-old sometimes joins, sometimes doesn't. Sometimes she's a helper, but the kids in the kitchen are right now thinking of doing Halloween tricks. Maybe tricks. I should ask them that. Halloween ideas and maybe Halloween snacks, and then they'll share their ideas. What do you do as a vegan when you go trick-or-treating? For example, you're not going to go trick-or-treating and say, no, thanks, that's not vegan. No, thanks, that's not vegan. So what my daughter does anyhow is, what she used to do when she was a teeny tot is I used to tell her, because she wasn't used to candy, is I told her trick-or-treating is where you select, you get all these candies, but it's just for fun, and then we discard them afterwards. And she said, okay, Dad, and that's what she'd do. But when she got older, she didn't buy that. She still doesn't really eat candy. What we do is she goes trick-or-treating everywhere, and then she teases out, there are some non-vegan items, and she'll eat a few of them, and the rest, our farmers market will give you credit. If you give them the treats, they will give you a gift certificate for produce at the farmers market. So Chris, thanks for your comment. And Krista, okay, plant-based network, great. Yeah, wonderful. So originally our first show was on plant-based network, and then there were some problems with plant-based network. So hopefully they'll be back, and we'll be back on plant-based network. I'm glad you found out about us that way. So Mark or Carolyn, any final thoughts?
Nope, just keep eating whole food, plant-based, and take care of yourself.
Exactly. And then November 5th is our next show with sweet potatoes. Is the grown-ups next show with sweet potatoes.
That's right. And we have a date for December and a date for January. And I think for February, we don't have the topics. This year, we're changing a bit. Last 2 years, we did Thanksgiving for November. But since it's so early in November and we've done Thanksgiving and a reprise, we decided to do something new, sweet potatoes. So if you have thoughts, go ahead and send it to us. You can email any of us or put it on social media. Or you can, put it, you can in the next 30 seconds, put it here as well. But we're open to ideas. Yeah, Kids in the Kitchen is every other month, Kathy. So if you have kids in your life, please join us for that. So with that, we look forward to seeing you for So Many Sweet Potatoes in a month or so. I can't believe it's October. Where's the year going, right? Next we know it'll be 2023. But thanks so much for joining us, Carolyn and Mark. It's a delight always to work with you and everybody else. And we will see you next time. Oh, there's a comment coming. Let's see the final comment. Yep. Bye, Krista. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. I just have to find the outro. Bye.
So many cooks in the kitchen, so many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.